After setting up the TypeScript environment and downloading all the required softwares, now we can get started with our first program in TypeScript and how you can execute the TypeScript program, how you define different types. Let's see the basic working of TypeScript and how you can run the most important hello world program, right? So let's get started with that. So I've picked up my favorite editor, that is Visual Studio Code. So yeah, I delete this. Cool. So I'm just starting up a new file that is gonna be index.js, right? So index.ts. Now the file extension would be index.ts. .ts as in TypeScript. So what all different softwares have we installed? If you can quickly go through it: Node.js, code editor, and then we have installed NVM, then we have installed TypeScript. So these are mandatory, TypeScript, and then that's it. So for going forward, all of these are mandatory, right? So let me write my first TypeScript program, that is function hello world, and what it does nothing. So TypeScript program can be written by following pure object-oriented structure, wherein you define classes, interfaces, abstract classes, and all the stuff like that. But again, you have the flexibility to maintain the JavaScript functional programming paradigm. It means you can define functions, you can execute as a normal JavaScript program as well. So right, so when you write a TypeScript program, so this might look, you cannot without looking the extension, you cannot actually say is this a TypeScript or JavaScript program, because both looks much similar, because ultimately TypeScript is going to be converted into JavaScript itself, right? So this is my first TypeScript program. In normal JavaScript, what do? You execute it with the command node and the file name, right? So node.js and the file name. Now in TypeScript, you have to install the library tsnode. So tsnode is a TypeScript compiler or execution engine which executes your TypeScript program, right? So if you see here right now, hello world, so I'm calling this function, right? Here nothing is TypeScript. I mean, we didn't define any types, but yeah, this is how a TypeScript program would look like. I mean, what I want to emphasize here is that it doesn't look much different from your normal JavaScript code. You can make it different. You can make it look different by adding classes and all. We'll see how to write that kind of things as well. But yeah, how to execute the code: tsnode TypeScript.ts, and it gives an error. Okay, the file name is index.ts. That's it. So that's how I get to see my first hello world program in TypeScript, right? Now, the other thing which I will showcase is a function. So let me write another function sum, right? So function sum, this sum will take two values, a comma b, right? And it returns a plus b, right? And now when I execute this, I have to store the value is equal to constant sum, and it is throwing me an error, or it's giving me a warning saying that an argument expected 2 arguments but 0 got 0. And if I do 1 comma 2, then it is good, right? Now if I execute this code, console.log value, right? So if you see here, there is an error again. Yes, this is what I'm expecting. So see, now it is saying that unable to compile TypeScript, right? So it is saying it is unable to compile TypeScript. And what's the reason for it? So whenever you get any error messages, you just read it carefully, because half of the solution is in the error message itself. It says parameter A implicitly has any type. We'll discuss about types in detail, but what it is saying is the type of this parameter, that is it a string, is it an integer, is it an array. So we didn't define that. Since it is a TypeScript gets compiled to JavaScript, we have to mention what type the argument is gonna be. So it is going to look something like this. It is A is a number, right? A can be any number, integer, float, or any number. Similarly, B is also a number. Now when I execute my code, it runs perfectly fine. Hello world 3. And instead of doing this, if I send a string as an argument, first of all, it already started showing me the error message or the warning message saying argument of type string is not assignable to the parameter of type number. So it is saying that, hey, you defined A to be of number, but you tried to send a non-number value, that is string. So please, can you correct it? This is how TypeScript is going to help you when you do something wrong in your code. Let me show the same code, temp.js, same code in JavaScript, right? So when you define like this in JavaScript, first thing, JavaScript doesn't accept any parameters because those are the properties of TypeScript, right? And it is saying, we will directly console.log this. Yes. So in JavaScript, how do you execute JavaScript? Node temp.js. Here, see, JavaScript didn't give you any error or warning message. And since you ran that code, automatically you got unexpected results like this. 12. You try to add a string to a number, right? So right now you can see these values are statically, it is visible to you, but what if these values are coming from a server and that server gives you an error, right? This is not the expected behavior. And also the type of this is automatically converted to string, right? So such weird things are definitely will happen in JavaScript. That's the reason we have migrated to TypeScript, right? So now when you do something like this, TypeScript slaps you on the face saying, hey, please change your type or check your type values, right? Similarly, we will now write a proper TypeScript code where you define a class and everything. So how do you define that? Class mathematic operations, right? Class mathematic operations. And you can have the constructor. The constructor takes two arguments, that is param1 and param2, and this dot param1 is equal to param1. So it is saying again, it is giving us a warning message, and also it gives us the quick fix. So it says that, hey, you didn't declare the param1, but you already started using it. Whereas in JavaScript, due to the JavaScript hosting, weird things happen, and you can use a variable which is not even declared. That's kind of advantage and also disadvantage in JavaScript, but with TypeScript you can directly avoid it. Similarly, this dot param2 is equal to param2. Again, it is started showing you a warning message saying does not exist on type. So declare the property param2, and I know the types of these two are number and number, right? Now I'll define some properties like this. Public sum, right? This will return me this dot param1 plus this dot param2. Similarly, I will define another function. So I can use the identifiers like public, private, protected. We'll discuss about them, but yeah, the normal TypeScript program would look like this. Difference is equal to return this dot param2 dot param1, assuming param1 2 is greater than 1, right? And I have missed a syntactical error, right? So now how do I create an object for it? Constant object is equal to new mathematic operation, and I have to pass, so it is automatically saying that constructor takes two values, so I'll be giving like 5 comma 10, right? Then I'll be executing my code, and if you see here the public function, it is automatically if you see here mathematic operation dot sum, and the right hand side, what does this indicate is that, let me write another function, you will understand. Public show print, okay, console.log this dot param1 comma this dot param2. So now if you hover onto this, you can see that it is column number, and if you hover onto this, it is saying column void. What does this mean? It means that though you are not writing, but the TypeScript compiler or the plugin has already understood that this is going to return a number, and this is going to return nothing, that is why void, and this is going to return a number. So the good TypeScript code, a good TypeScript code should have all of this. It means it should be well typed, right? Now constant sum is equal to object dot sum. Similarly, constant difference equal to object dot difference. And the last thing, or the first thing I can say, object dot print. So pure object oriented programming, you can strictly follow all of that. And now if I console.log sum comma difference, a simple code, TypeScript code, okay? Yes. And now how do I execute this? ts node index.ts, and it is giving me an error. It's okay, humans are allowed to do mistakes. Yes, and it is saying that parameter param2 implicitly has any type, so it is saying that, hey, you didn't define the types for it. So I will be saying number, and by mistake if I do string, see here again you will get an error. Type string is not assignable to type number, so that's why both should be of same type. So this is a strictly and well written TypeScript code. So if I run this ts node index, so first object.print param1 is 5 and param2 is 10, then the sum is 15 and the difference is 5. This is how a good TypeScript code is going to look like. And right now we have executed it with the help of ts node, wherein there is no intermediate state. But what basically happens is that in a normal TypeScript programs, first you write TypeScript, then we compile it to JavaScript code, then we execute JavaScript code, because the .ts node is not allowed in the production environments because that is a dev dependency and it is not recommended as well, right? So to do that, I'll show you the basic way of doing it. You can use the basic or the inbuilt TypeScript compiler that we have got when we install npm install -g TypeScript, right? So when you install this, you will get TSC, a TypeScript compiler that is of version 4.5.5. Now when I run TSC and mention out directory is equal to, let me create a directory, dest or I can say help out file. I can give different options, right? Yes, out directory tsc out dir is equal to and index.ts. Let me run it this way. Specify an output. Okay, let's ignore for this right now. Yeah, tsc index.ts. When I run this, what happened is, right, it generated me a JavaScript file that is equivalent to what we have written. So if you see carefully, we have written a class, but that has been converted to a function. So whatever TypeScript code your compiler or your computer is allowing you to write, eventually all those needs to be converted to JavaScript. And since JavaScript is not, or JavaScript doesn't support classes by itself, it was a new feature added to JavaScript in the later versions. So all of that code is compiled to JavaScript. See here, like the variable declaration and the function, this has been converted to an immediately invoke the function, and all the things whatever we have done with const and object.print and everything, it has been defined in a different way altogether, and along with the comments. So see, even comments have come into. So whatever TypeScript code you have written, it with see, but the thing which you need to notice is here is that there are no typed definitions in JavaScript, because JavaScript doesn't support types, right? So this is what you have to do. In production based applications, we use Webpack builder, which will support a lot of plugins to support env variables and stuff like that. So for developing a production based application, we'll learn about Webpack later on. But yeah, this is how you are going to execute your JavaScript code. And for a moment, let me comment all of this and let me run my node.js or the JavaScript file which has been generated, and it gives me the same output. So whatever output my TypeScript gave, it did give me the same output of the TypeScript. So just the extension got changed. I was actually trying to put it in a different build, but it's giving me some kind of error. So I'll have to figure it out why it is giving. Yes.